So I'm sitting with the infamous Jake Lyons. Thank you for joining me today. You've had you've had a very busy year.
Yep.
And it's ups and downs, I guess, huh? Why don't you tell me a little bit about how 2010 started for you?
2010 was an intense combination of working for some great studios and putting out some great content. But there was also the never-ending nagging of one particular company that just really threw in a bad gut feeling for me all year.
Okay. I think a lot of people have heard about the situation, and a lot of people have familiarized themselves with it. I've noticed your name come up on quite a few gay blogs.
And I'm very happy I'm very thankful for my fans that, are coming in my stead and saying, hey, this is wrong. You guys, thank you, to the public, thank you.
So 2010, it was a crazy year, and a lot of it started over some pictures. Is that right?
Yes, that's exactly right. One of the excellent companies that I worked for got into some conflict over pictures that they took of me, and someone acting in my stead uploaded some pictures to a pretty famous, I would say pretty famous escort site, and the owners of these photos came after me pretty strong.
All right, and with those pictures, you said it's on an escort site. That's a pretty common place for a lot of porn actors and actresses to use.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of actors that start off as escorts, and to make themselves more famous, more well-known, more sexually appetizing to their clients, they start doing porn to show their clients what they could have, potentially.
Mm-hmm. All right, and with those pictures, obviously, we now know that they were the property of the companies. They were images of you.
Yes.
And they were upset that you used them in a manner because they thought that it was defacing their name.
Correct.
What are your thoughts on that?
When I originally dealt with everything, I assumed that any publicity, anywhere where their name would appear would draw revenue. If my pictures were on this escort site, I felt that it would point in their direction. Hey guys, let's hang out. And in return, these gentlemen would get a membership on this website.
Okay, so in a way, it almost was a sort of type of, in a weird way, it almost actually kind of promoted them a little bit rather than hurting them.
Which is what I felt, and I would have never done anything that I would have thought would have hurted. I would have never done anything that I would have thought would hurt anybody. Okay. In the end, I want everybody to come out as a winner.
Right. And what happened when the company asked you to... Have they ever asked you to take those pictures down? What was the course of action when they saw the copyrighted photos?
The first time I ever heard from the company was when I was at the mall. I was looking at jewelry while I was waiting for my reading glasses, to get made at LensCrafters. And their attorney contacted me and said, Mr. Kirkler, we don't have a problem at all. We don't have a problem. But I am contacting you because we had to get a hold of the escort site that you had this profile on, and we had to tell them to take this profile down. So, just as a side note, I was never asked to take the profile down. Never. Okay? The company's attorney commanded the escort site to remove the profile before they ever got in contact with me. Okay,
so you after that conversation, had you assumed that they were already taken down, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I knew that they were taken down. I had got online and the profile wasn't there anymore that evening, around about 2 or 3 hours later. The profile
Okay.
just didn't exist anymore.
So how did a few copyrighted photos that were eventually taken down by the escort site company, they actually removed the profile, how did that evolve into a $1 million lawsuit?
Well, basically, at that point, it was my understanding the lawsuit that we settled. I said, I'm sorry, I'll never use your guys' name again, never use your photos again. I was sincerely sorry. And they sent me a settlement contract that included a couple clauses that would have thrown me under the bus, so to speak. If I were to have signed this settlement, I would have A, stated that I uploaded the pictures, which I didn't. B, stated that I was guilty, which I wasn't, or didn't feel that I was. And C, I had to turn the escort site in, provide the company with ammunition to further sue the escort company, which would have allowed the company to get a much, much larger suit out of the escort company. And my contract with the escort company, upon creating the profile, even though I did not create the profile, it was set up to my email address by my agent who had access to my email address. Even though I did not create it, the contract that was signed with my email address stated that anything that the escort site got sued for on my behalf, I was solely responsible for. That's something that I signed when I created the profile, and I knew that. So after I scream I'm guilty and sign on the dotted line, the escort site was 100% able to just say, why are you suing us? And they would hold their hand out to me for the rest of my life, and I knew that. Mm-hmm. I knew that there was no way out once I signed that settlement agreement. It wasn't a question. And it's just something I just had to, I just couldn't do it.
Right. So when you refused to sign the settlement agreement because you were...
It wasn't really a refusal.
Mm-hmm.
I was postponing it until my agent told me that it was okay to sign.
Oh, okay.
But my agent was slowly just, he stopped paying me for certain shoots and stopped talking to me slowly. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And I never meant to offend the company by not signing the contract. I just didn't know what to do.
Right. So when you were faced with that settlement contract, had you thought about possibly hiring an attorney or seeking legal advice?
I had, and I talked to some people. The problem with that was, at the time, I didn't have the money. And number two, even if I were to come up with a little bit of money and hire an attorney, there's no way that I could that I could compete with the deep pockets of a multi-million-dollar corporation.
It's understandable.
And also, I've been informed that legal battles in this degree sometimes go on for years and cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Copyright and trademark infringement cases can go on for 8-10 years and finally get resolved with $300,000-$400,000 in legal fines. So I mean, it's just not something that was an option for me.
Now I'm paraphrasing a quote that I read on a blog that was stated by the attorney of that company, who had stated that the suit was not about money. It was never about money. It was more about the principle. What type of principle or what type of statement do you think that company was trying to make by going after you like this?
Well, in general in the world, there are a lot of people that are overzealous about their job. And not to say that the attorney was overzealous, But that's the reason he gave. Whether he was overzealous or not, that's for people to decide. Okay? But honestly, I don't truly know the intent. I don't know the intent. If they were trying to get publicity, they didn't succeed, and I assume a company as excellent and wonderful as this would have the knowledge of how to create publicity. Good publicity, bad publicity, doesn't matter. I would assume that a company this big would be able to create publicity that would not backfire on them.
So, when you were faced with a lawsuit that was $1 million, which I know I personally feel is quite absurd, and I
Absolutely. If I got $1 million, jackpot. Just saying, that's a huge amount of money. I mean, everybody sits around when they're a kid and they dream about winning $1 million. But to tell a kid, you know, hey, the first $1 million you ever make is ours. You know, it just really just makes a kid, just makes his heart drop into his stomach, and I was nervous. Just imagine someone taking your first 15 years of your adult life as if it was their own. And you know, I want to go to college. I want to make something of myself. I know exactly what I want to be. You know, I didn't want to give up my life before it began.